welcome to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. Right here, baby, it's BCB Live. We're Women in Trucking. Drive safe, Dave.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. I'm excited. I hope you're excited as well. And we have, of course, our guests, our panel, the people we actually came to talk to today. We've got Heather, and we also have Lindsay. How are y'all doing today?
Hey, doing great. I mean, this is full of energy, full of women.
1,700.
1,700.
Wow.
There's a lot of us here, that's for darn sure.
It is so fun.
Yes, 100% agree with that. I've already met some absolutely astounding women.
And you know, and we've already had some great conversation in there. We had the TXTA, we had Robin Hutchinson on there as well, the administrator for the FMCSA. Big conversation. Let's just go about it. Truck parking. Another one is driver shortage. Let's just talk driver shortage for a second. Is there a driver shortage? I mean, how do we have a driver shortage if there's no freight, right? I mean, talk to me about the driver shortage.
Well, so there is a driver shortage in that there are so many open positions. Actually, drivers is the #1 position across the country for employment, job opportunities. So yes, there's a driver shortage.
I definitely agree that there's a driver shortage. I'm not so sure that there's a shortage of people who have their CDLs. I think our issue is keeping people in transportation and not letting CDL holders leave transportation. So I agree there's a driver shortage, but I think it's more there's a lot of people with CDLs. There's plenty to fill the roles that are here and available. Well, not necessarily replace the ones that are leaving the industry for sure. We definitely need to keep in line with the next generation, but I think that there is a little bit of a driver shortage and mainly just bringing them back to the industry.
You know, and we talk about that, but I'll tell you, we talk about driver shortage, but you have massive turnovers. We're talking about high percentages. We're not talking about 10% or 20%. Some as high as what, 85, 100%. 100% turnover.
No. A lot of companies are happy with 100%. You give me 100% turnover, that chalk that down as a victory, but that's not a good thing, right?
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, we've had carriers that have onboarded with us that when they started with us, they're 160%. That's the highest percentage of turnover I have ever seen. And they didn't realize that that was a problem. Which is crazy to me. That's a lot of money to replace those drivers.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Where is everybody?
But you know what? When you talk about the driver turnover, let's just face it, we have an aging group of drivers, right? We have an aging group of drivers of 55 years and older, and the big problem maybe not be today, you know, just today, but who's going to replace them? Lindsay, what are you seeing? I mean, how are we going to replace these 55-year-old drivers or older, you know, in our industry? How are we going to do that?
Well, it's all about getting the next generation into our industry. Right now, they have choices. Do they want to go and to be an HVAC or an electrician? Or what if we could introduce them to trucking and becoming a professional driver? And that's what we at the Next Generation Trucking Association are trying to do. We're trying to create these programs so high school students, instead of going to, say, shop class, they're going to professional driving class, where they're learning on a driver simulator. We've got to start getting young people interested and trained in our careers.
But we're kind of at a disadvantage. When you talk about a high school student, you're already at a little bit of a disadvantage because technically they can't really go over the road until they're 21, right? I mean, they can't really do those kinds of jobs that we're talking about here doing when they're 18 years old. I mean, it's kind of makes it a little bit difficult. I know there's programs out there. I know that we're working to better them, but really that to an 18-year-old. I'm just curious, how do you sell that to an 18-year-old?
Well, they are going to be able to drive intrastate, and they have to hold on. If they want to go over the road, they're going to get that experience, and they're going to hopefully have a safe driving record, and then really the world is their oyster on what they want to do when they turn 21 to go over the road. And I can tell you, these young people want to see the country. Yeah. So when they turn 21, they are out the door because they want to explore while they're young and see what's out there.
Of course, and I think that Lindsay actually does a great job with her association of showing high school students how they can progress and be prepared so that when they're 21, they can advance their career into that next level of going over the road.
You know, as we talk about it, here we are, we're at Women in Trucking, and I think it's important that we focus on and we talk about getting more diversity, more women in the truck, in that driver program in the beginning, because, I mean, honestly, how many girls are out there really thinking about being truck drivers at 17 years old when they should be, right? When they really should be thinking, how do we do that?
It's exposure and exposing young girls to that. Women in trucking, they have a Girl Scout patch. It's a supply chain trucking patch. And so getting those programs across the country. We were at FFA, the Future Farmers of America, a couple of weeks ago. 65,000 students at that convention. Over half of them were female. I talked to 16-year-olds that drive trucks on their parents' farm. Their parents said, we want you to learn how to drive a truck, and they were driving a truck. It was amazing.
No, and I think that's the key, right? I mean, what are you seeing in general? Let's take FA out of it. Are the women, are the girls, are they asking about driving a truck, or are they worried about that truck parking? We heard about it today with Hutchins. Yeah, do they feel safe? Are the trucking companies, are they doing the right things to make sure that they keep those drivers in here? What are you hearing from the female truck drivers out there, or the younger ones?
Yeah, so something that I've seen be a problem with a lot of advertising that goes towards putting people into the industry is there's not a lot of women in advertising for truck driving positions. So immediately you have a disadvantage right there, because if we don't see ourselves in that position, we don't think that we're going to be fit for that position, or possibly we think that it's going to be male dominated and that we're going to have just not be treated the same as a man would be, right? That we're going to be disadvantaged immediately off the get-go. So I think that advertising towards women in transportation and actually putting that in a foothold and really making it a selection and really being intentional with your advertising is a large part of what's going to help get women into trucking.
You know, we have a lot of women here, drivers, and a lot of showcase drivers and talented, awesome drivers that are willing to be able to speak out. We should focus on, right, making sure there are heroes in advertising, right?
Influencer marketing, exactly.
Right, I mean, you got to have heroes out there, just like you're talking about. I tell you what, I've been talking to I saw a Walmart team member, and I heard her talking over here. Fascinating, she's awesome, you know, great driver. You can't be on that team and not be awesome. And I tell you what, we all had heroes. I think we need more women heroes, right?
I 100% agree with that. And I think that companies can use those women that are on their fleet and promote them as brand ambassadors, as influencers, because influencer marketing, especially in our younger generation, is absolutely huge. And traditional marketing like Google and Facebook just doesn't cut it anymore. You have to get out there. You have to create people that are like the people that you're trying to hire, i.e. women, and make them out to be heroes and show how their career has helped them and how being in trucking has helped them get to where they want to be with their personal goals as well.
How do we get the word out then? Really, honestly. Go ahead, Rick.
Hold on. We got like 2 minutes left, but Lindsay, I'm going to have you jump into this right here. We heard it mentioned a few times out there today in the conference already, the word collaboration, working together. We as an industry, we can't be afraid, right, to share information, to make one another better. When you see this women in trucking out here, you see all these companies, it's people getting together, hopefully to make the industry better. What can we do better, though, to really attack this driver shortage, to attack the, replacing this retiring group by more collaboration within the industry?
I think everybody should join the Next Generation in Trucking Association and help us on our mission. We are out to reach young people and steer them towards careers in trucking, and we are out to create programs so they can get their CDL while they're a senior in high school. Mm-hmm. It is about collaborating as an industry, and that's why we created the Next Generation in Trucking. We have an industry-wide problem. We're trying to create an industry-wide solution. We're partnered with a lot of carriers, allied members. We're partnered with a lot of associations, and we're trying to get out there and make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. Joining Lindsay and the Next Generation in Trucking is a huge step towards that. Joining women in trucking and actually engaging and actually going the next step. Not just become a member, but actually engage, ask where they need help and what we can help in order to help their mission go further.
Heather, Lindsay, Dave, I know you're getting ready to talk. We got to cut it off. We have more people coming on BCB Live. Hey, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do. It's it really means a lot to me personally, to Drive Safe Dave, and to our listeners out there that need to hear what's going on in our industry.
Of course.
Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for being part of Women in Trucking. Man, what is your must, before we go, what's your must-do thing today at Women in Trucking? Anything?
Well, you know, we're having a motorcycle night tonight,
Bam!
so we're going to have some fun tonight.
No
Yeah.
driving though after this night right here, right? Uber home, find a way home.
We're going to wear our leathers tonight. We're going to wear leathers
Lots
tonight.
of fun.
All right, Dave, we got our matching BCB Live chaps. We'll be going on that today. Yeah,
Safety colors. We got our
Safety
safety
colors.
colors on.
Right.
hey, we'll be back in just a minute. This is BCB Live, and we're the safest station in the nation.
Be right back. done.
Yeah, I agree. We also want to know when to start. Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We have Drive Safe Dave and Drive Safe. Once again, we're joined with a couple of guests. Let's do the introductions.
All right, we got Clara and we have Robert here from Carrier Source. How are y'all doing today?
Hey, both co-founders too.
Co-founders.
Co-founders,
The co-founders.
CEO,
Written down.
name drop of Drive Safe Dave. Let's get for real here.
I'm famous. I'm sitting next to him. I'll tell you what, here you are at Women in Trucking. What do you think so far? It just kicked off. Got a little excited. What do you got going on?
I'm overwhelmed. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful how many women are here. Rob and I were talking. He was like, I think it's like 10% men. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, what an incredible.
And my wife wanted to know why I wanted to be here. I said, well, you know, I got work to do. I got to broadcast.
But we went to an event in Chicago last month, and it was probably 10% women there at that event. And so to see it flipped is really amazing.
Yeah.
And which event was that?
It was a logistics venture summit up in Chicago. A lot of local logistics companies, venture capitalists. It was interesting, but completely different demographic.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, right? Finding ways to inform women about the industry, not just truck drivers, right? There's so many other opportunities, logistics, dispatching, mechanic. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Chippers, receivers, traffic offices.
Lions and tigers.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my!
Hey, but here we go. Why did you start your business? Talk to us a little bit about the whys of that.
Yeah, so I think within the industry, there's a lot of interesting power dynamics that take place, right? And trucking companies specifically really didn't have an opportunity to own their own narrative, share their own story, and you know, we really thought that reviews were an excellent way for them to do that, right? Anybody can tell you how great your own business is. We can tell you how great Carrier Source is. But if your customers are writing reviews and publicly giving testimonials about your service that you provide and how great it is, that's a much more powerful story. And so, you know, our goal was really to allow trucking companies to do that. And so with that, yeah, we created a profile for every carrier out there. We collect reviews from brokers and shippers, and it's a great way for those trucking companies to build a reputation, get recognition for the hard work that they do every day.
And I just asked this because I just want to know, if you pay more, do you get better reviews?
No.
Or there's always tipping, has always been involved in my deal, but I just wanted to make sure. No, it sounds like, and we talked about this before, the Yelp of trucking, right? You're going out there, you get a taste of it, and you find out, and if you like it, you let them know, and if you don't, you also let them know, right?
Yep.
How did the first carrier start to react to that kind of information? I'm just curious, what was the first feedback stuff that started coming in?
Well, I think people were excited, right? Because there are reviews that exist out there that are only negative, right? There's things like watchdog reports, watchdog reports and freight guards, right? Which you cannot receive positive reviews in that aspect. So they were excited just to have the opportunity to gain a positive review, right? And I think brokers and shippers often use some other pieces of information as proxies for how good a carrier is, right? Inspections, some safety data that exists out there, but that only tells a fraction of the story, right? So I think early on, carriers were excited about the ability to get recognized for that, you know, the great service that they provide to their customers.
Hey Claire, but what happens when that customer, that carrier, gets that bad report? Because you know what, we don't do much wrong. I was going to tell you. So when we see that, we want to be able to explain that story. Is there a way to do that?
Absolutely, and that's another thing that I think Carriers offers is you can respond to your reviews. It's not just get them and let them lie. It's come in, respond, tell your story, share your experience. And I think something that we tout a lot is the power of negative reviews, and how a negative review is, we have to look at it as a gift, because it's giving you that feedback that you might not know otherwise. You might not have realized that terrible experience was happening. You can make it better, you can make it different, and fix that.
Yeah, I'll say that to us in the office all the time. There's nothing wrong with sucking as long as you know where you suck, because then you can fix it. It's when you don't know where your fails are, where you're not very good at. And you've got to be, as a trucking company, you've got to also be able to take that as critical review, and it is what it is. You've got to address it. But when you see something out there you don't agree with, maybe, to not answer. Talk to me about that. Just to let it sit out there and not reply to a negative post. Is there something to be said about that as well?
I always encourage people to at least reply, even if you don't agree with it. You can still reply and say, thank you for this feedback. We apologize you had this experience. We hope you come try us again. You don't need to defend it if it's unreasonable, and if it's like, which people are unreasonable. We know that.
Johnny, we know this is you.
Yeah. Get off our review page, man. But I think there is something in taking the higher ground. And I, as a consumer, as someone looking for my next carrier, might see okay, they're listening, they're hearing. They'd probably be a good person for me to work with.
So we use information now like we've never used it before. Everything's out there. We're going out there to find a great restaurant. We're going out there to find a great hotel. We're going out there to find, and here it is, trucking companies. We're going out to find trucking companies. When is the script going to be flipped and we find out about shippers? When are we going to find out who's the bad shipper, who's the good shipper? When are we going to find out who's the bad broker or the good broker, right? Who do I go to? If I really need help here, who do I go to? When is that going to jump around and spin around and go the other way too?
Yeah, so it's been on our roadmap for some time here, and we do intend to stand up broker profiles as well, because I mentioned those power dynamics, right? It's only fair if brokers and shippers can review a carrier, that carriers can then go back and review those brokers and shippers as well. And we think even opportunities for facilities, receivers, right? You want to know who are the good shippers and who are the bad, who takes too long to pay you, who's got efficiency, who's easy to work with, who's friendly, right?
I think it's important, right? If you tell one side of the story, I feel like you should also be able to tell the other, right? And does that even go as far as y'all think down the road and go and look and further down, are we thinking about the best truck stops, right? The best places for drivers to go and the best places, how far can this really go?
I think information is super powerful, like you said. If we can open up all that information, then we've been successful in this, right? And so I think facilities, I think truck stops, I think that there's reviews can really change an industry. And so I'm hopeful that we only can continue to gather that information through reviews.
Hey, so when you're bringing on a carrier, onboarding a carrier, what are some of the points that you want to make sure you get across? If I'm a carrier, I wanted to join your network, to subscribe to this right here. Are you going to talk to me and tell me about how it works, about how to react maybe to some of these bad reviews? Because we're going to get them, right? And again, do I just sign up and that's it, or is there more to it from y'all that you provide to the carriers out there?
Well, it is free to sign up, so every carrier can come in and claim their profile. They have that listing, and we do help them. Part of what they get if they become a premium is we help them gather reviews.
Gotcha.
So with a free profile, you can gather reviews on your own, and if you reach out to us, we'll of course help you. But with a premium profile, we'll help you gather reviews. We'll throw in an incentive maybe for your customers to leave that review, stuff like that. And we will be your partner, and we will help you.
Well, we definitely want the premium side right here. We're not about free.
I told you. I knew
you gotta
there
pay
was
money if you really want to get better at something. You gotta find the value.
I called it at the first of the show. So look, I'm going to be honest. Here it is. Here's an opportunity. We're talking about going out and get the information. It's really starting to turn, and I'll tell you, I'm an old guy, Jack with a flip phone, not doing that. But really the next gen who's coming into the industry, and these women in here that that network well and doing this kind of stuff, these are the people that are going to benefit the most from this type of information, right?
Yeah, I do think so. I think younger generations are more accustomed to using reviews, really. I mean, all technology, right? And technology ultimately makes your job easier. This information can make your job easier. And from a carrier perspective too, the ability to put forward-facing online, a description of your business, testimonials from your customers that you've worked with, advertising, marketing yourself, can only help down the road, right? So we're really hopeful in that.
And I talk about that and I laugh about it, but my daughter and we'll go to dinner and she'll be like, well, Dad, they have a horrible review. I said, well, I've been going there 20 years. I don't know. And they're like, yeah, but they got a 2.5 star. And y'all are on like a star rating, right? Y'all do the same type of deal, and you kind of, that's how you rate it, and to understand it, kind of that kind of methodology about how you go about it, right?
Yeah, we have a few different inputs that go through our algorithm. So we do collect information on like timeliness of the load, quality of equipment, communication, general satisfaction, some other things there that influence that star rating. Yeah. So it's not just like a quick click.
How about safety? Is that in there too?
So we don't do, we display safety information from the FMCSA. We don't really view ourselves as kind of a compliance tool or a safety tool, right? There's other tools out there that may take all that safety data, spit out an algorithm, and kind of give a score in that sense. We're really more so of satisfaction information when working with that carrier.
So a word we've heard it today during the conference already a couple times is that word collaboration. What are you doing to collaborate with other technology companies, trucking companies, peers of yours, to make our industry a little safer, a little better, a little bit more success, to bring more drivers into it? Do you find yourself collaborating with other industries as well today?
Yeah, definitely. I think reviews can really help know who's a legitimate carrier, right?
Got it.
Who provides a good service, and we're starting to talk with other partners as well, some transactional platforms, load boards, digital freight brokerages, right, to kind of pump our satisfaction information into those systems too, to expand the reach and to help brokers and shippers know about carriers at the point of transaction.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, when you're looking for, as a broker side, when you're looking for a carrier, you have them on DAT or truck stop, get loaded, whatever you're using. Well, it'd be nice to go ahead and see your rating right there so I don't have to go anywhere else. What are some advice, though, for a brand new trucking company coming into this industry? Seriously, Clara, how important is this information for a brand new carrier into this market?
I think it's critical, especially with all the double brokering that's happening right now. Like, if you have 8 reviews from verified brokers, like, you're real. Like, even if they're bad reviews, even if they're positive, like, you must be a real company. And that's what we've heard from some feedback from brokers is, like, even just like seeing that like people have worked with this company and people have any opinion about them, like that gives you a whole layer of validity that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Right, I got you.
That's a great point on that. And so I'm just going to follow up with this question here. How do you verify, and I'm just curious how do you verify that comments are good, false, or not? It's not just Drive Safe Dave Trucking Company. Boy, this is the best ever. And it's him, type from the same IP. I've never seen anybody better. With a smile on his face, never been late.
100 trucks showed up. Yeah.
Well, we know it was probably
exactly
at that point.
Yeah, they'd be bright.
Yeah. Is there any way that you have today to catch those kinds of things?
We do come from an industry. We come from a review industry and a review background. Both of us built our career at a company that was all about reviews, and we both spent countless hours verifying reviews and moderating reviews. And you do that by you look at the person, you make sure the person is real, and we have various ways of doing that. Then you read the content. Is it reasonable? Do the comments that they say make sense with the flags they put in, etc. And then on top of that, we will ask for a redacted rate con or some kind of picture that you worked with the actual carrier that you're reviewing.
Yeah, I think we've all gotten a little bit more fearful of that with Twitter, right? All the bots and all of these fake people that are doing that. Good stuff, man. Love what y'all are doing for the industry, because it is important for those carriers to be rated. It's important also for trucking company, if you subscribe to this, to look at your data and fix it. Don't bow up, like, oh, I've never done. You know what? Sometimes when you hear something, it is the truth, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, we just have to learn to put our guard down, to open up a little bit, face the facts that, Dave, we're not perfect.
No, and I get that, but I'll tell you what's really nice about this is here's an opportunity. You've worked with somebody for a while. It's time you sit down and you said thank you by writing a good review.
Yeah.
It's time that you said, hey, I appreciate the job you're doing for me.
Point.
I want to make sure other people also realize you're not a secret, right? We all in this industry want to keep everybody a secret when we find some success. But truly, if you want to reward the people that you work with and they do a great job, let others know how good they're doing, because it makes a difference, right?
It directly helps influence their ability to grow their own business, right? If you can put your best foot forward for your best carrier, that goes such a long way for them, and it just helps build a more positive industry, frankly.
I tell you, I like the idea of going out there and saying nice things and doing nice things in the industry, because so many like Fleet Guard and so many of these others, all it is a negative platform. It's a platform that says, and I get it, there's a reason for that, right? We have jails for a reason, because there's, those are the places for the bad people, but I'm just saying, at the same time, we also want to let everybody know how awesome that they're doing. How do we get involved? I just want to know how do we do that? How do we get involved?
So Carrier Source is entirely free to use. If you're a broker or shipper, you can just come onto Carrier Source and prospect through our site. We have a full database of all the active federally registered freight carriers out there. You can come in, you can look up reviews on carriers, you can leave reviews of carriers, totally free to do all that. And if you're a carrier as well, as Clara mentioned earlier, it's free to come in and claim your profile page. You can write a description of your business. If you've got a logo or an image that you want to put in there as well, you can do that. It's free to send your favorite brokers and shippers to your page and ask them to write reviews for you. Like, totally free to do all that. And we encourage everybody to do it, because if our pages are all public and they're all within Google, right? So if somebody's Googling your business and they find your Carrier Source profile page, you got to put your best foot forward there. It's a great opportunity to sell yourself a little bit and share with the world who you are, tell your story, and ensure that they're finding what you want them to find about you.
Yeah, all critical information. And I want to thank you all for being on the show today. Lots of fun. I'm going to tell you, when Dave started talking about jail, I was like, sometimes he can get sideways on us. And I was like, here comes a jail story. Thank you, Dave, for not bringing up the jail story. They may kick us out of here.
I have one or two.
Hey, but thank you for being on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Keep doing what you can. Listen, don't do the free. Anybody can do free. I'm going to tell you to subscribe today.
Get the good review.
Get the good stuff. Yeah, for sure. Get the paid. It's always better than free. It's free for a reason, what I always tell everybody. Get the paid one. You'll be a lot more happier. This is BCB Live, and we're the safest station in the nation. Welcome back to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. You got Dancing Drive Safe Dave over there. We have Grace, Freight Waves.
Yes.
Not just Freight Waves, a little
Sirius XM
Sirius
as well.
XM. And Kaylee Nix, Freight Waves big time. I mean, she's on the big stage all the time.
Yes.
I don't know about all the time. I'm on that TV stage like 5 days out of my week.
All right, so I got to hear, so autographs. Now, I will tell you that I'm like, we've had a competition. I'm winning right now.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So talk to me. Do you get like big people to say, "Oh, Kaylee, it's you"?
Never.
Really? You don't?
Okay.
It's wait a minute. It's just Kaylee.
You can't count the valet guy as an autograph, okay? That guy getting on here for parking the car. Can't use that, but he's one up on me and he's counting that guy.
Here's the thing, right? Like people are like, oh, give me an autograph. And I'm like, I signed my name like a 5-year-old. I'm like, you can't read my handwriting. It's literally just like a little scribble. I'm not an autograph person.
Yeah, I never have given an autograph yet, just in pictures, that's it.
Yeah, pictures.
Selfies.
Pictures and selfies.
Yeah.
Me,
Lots of
really.
selfies.
Like, hey, get your picture of Sir Rick, and I'm getting it taken like that, so definitely like that. So, hey, talk to me a little bit, Drive Safe Dave. You've been doing this for a little while. I want to go into this because people watch what we do sometimes, and they're like, certainly y'all mess up because we're live all the time.
Yes.
Is there a time, Dave?
Okay, so we went on, it wasn't too long ago, it was about 6 months ago. You weren't here, I was by myself, I was running the news desk. We go live, and I'm sitting here and I do like 14, 16 minutes of the best broadcast I'd ever done solo, no sound whatsoever. Finally, the producer stands up and goes, I can't get a feed. I can't get a feed. Nothing's happening. You're not going out. He said, I wish I could have recorded. I said, did you even at least record it? He's like, nothing. I got nothing. No sound. He said, we're taking a break. I was like, that was the best one ever.
Oh, man.
All right, Grace, talk to us.
I think, so I have this problem on Sirius XM. I have to and can only drink water. If I drink coffee up to an hour before, there's a moment, especially when I'm going over sonar updates or things like that, where my throat will get very dry. I'm sure listeners heard it. It happens like once a month, and I'll start coughing, and then I'm just like, I sound like I smoked 80 cigarettes that day. And so like I'm like dying for commercial break, and if you know, like you have certain breaks, you can't just like take it whenever you want to. So I'll just be like barely breathing. I get off, and Gerard, my producer, who I absolutely love, will be like, would you drink coffee today? And I'm like, yeah, like 20 minutes ago.
Kaylee, so for you, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say twice on air, and then like when you're standing in front of people at some of the Freight Waves Freight Classics, right? You all do in front of everybody. Anything from either one of those you can share?
Okay. So I've been broadcasting now for 8.5 years, right? Like I did it in college for 4 years. I worked as like a local news meteorologist before working at Freight Waves well in my time. And like that's one of the times I've made my most mistakes. Probably the funniest one at my local news job. You know, you've got like the moving cameras, there's cables on the floor. I'm standing at the weather wall. There's a shot where I've got to go from the weather wall to sit at the desk. I'm not paying attention. I step on one of the cables, I fall, I hit the deck, off camera completely, but like I slip, I fall. I might have uttered a swear word on air and then just like picked up my composure. So that one was one. I've got the recording of that somewhere. People can Venmo me to see it if they want to see it.
Oh, there you go.
Along with my other funny bloopers.
There you go.
For Freight Waves Live, I made a pretty big mistake at the Future of Supply Chain. One of the very first things I said back in Arkansas in April.
I was there.
In May. We're coming out. I'm nervous. I'm hyped, but I'm nervous. I'm up there with Sydney Edwards, who's my co-host, my partner in crime, my best friend, all of the above. We're up there. We're like feeling the energy. Andrew Leto and George Abernathy, our former president of FreightWaves, out at Merge. I welcome George, the president over at Emerge. I welcome Andrew Leto, call him CEO and president of Emerge. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, and then walks out on stage. And I was like, good, first thing I did.
Very Leto, very straight face.
Very
man.
Leto.
Yeah, when you're live, there's no taking it back either.
No.
I mean, it is, and you just got to go with it, and you got to help. Sometimes you got to get help too. And so for me, when I do something wrong, I'm like, or I just don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm just like, I'm stuck. I really don't even know where to go next. Drive Safe Dave, I'll look over to my partner here, and he's like looking at me. I'm like, dude, help me! I'm screaming for help!
And I'm thinking he's got that look like he's ready to go. He's got that. Here he comes out with the biggest moment he's going to ever have, and then he just looks at me, and I'm like, okay! So it's time for me to start lying.
So the thing with that is, though, you got to just own it, right?
Yes.
When you lose that train of thought, you got to own it. About a year and a half ago, we were doing what was previously midday market update, our 1 hour show. We're in the middle of asking somebody questions. I'm brand new to freight, so I am just straight up using context clues to ask all of my questions of these people at this point. And I'm finding my buzzwords, and I'm this and this and this, and then I just go straight up. Honestly, Andrew, I'm going to toss it back to you because I don't know where my train of thought was going.
I like it. I like that for sure. So Sonar, y'all play with. We love Sonar on BCB Live. Yes. So question, I was talking to Trey today, and he brought up something about trucking companies, right? About how these trucking companies, he's just impressed with those companies that haven't had a lot of turnover. Or have managed to keep their trucks filled. Yeah. And my thought on that, I don't know what you see on that, but there's been a lot of trucking companies that have reduced the size of their fleet, taken advantage of that high used truck market, sold their trucks, but you don't hear a lot about trucking companies reducing the size. You hear that they're running great numbers, their trucks are still filled. You have anything on that? Have you heard anything about those larger companies reducing the size of their fleet? And do we see anything like that in Sonar?
Talking about this the other day in an expert meeting, I think more of kind of what we're seeing, you can see it on unemployment data as well, right? Is that you're seeing people are being let go of their jobs, you see it on headlines, etc. You do see jobs are still going up. So I think what's interesting is, but one, we look at that as people are getting second jobs. Yep. We just put that out. So that's a huge thing, right? And two, I think when you look at the driver's side of that, I think what they're doing is they're leaving and going to these larger carriers that they feel like they can get that more sustainable job. I mean, when you're looking at contract work, that's what those guys make most of their money off of. So I think that what's happening is a lot of people, anyone, right, in this type of economy is looking for something that's solid, that they know the next couple of years they're going to be fine with. We talk about OEMs are already so far behind. I had a listener who I was talking to off air, and she was an owner-operator. She's like, I think I'm going to have to go back to the big fleets because my truck is at that age where it's starting to break down, but I can't get parts for 3 weeks at a time. And so it's not that she can't run a business, it's just there's so many different factors that are coming together where it's like,
and it all costs money.
Yes,
and it all costs money, downtime, parts, all this other, and it costs real money for real people, and they got to turn to a right solution for where they need right now for their families, right? For their careers.
Exactly.
It makes it hard. It makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Freight volume. All right. Thoughts on that? Let's start with you. Talk to me about freight volume because I have my own opinion. I got to hear yours first.
I just think that the market is so interesting to watch right now, just from an overall perspective, right? You go back to the beginning of the summer, to the end of May, the beginning of June, and we had Craig Fuller coming out saying, you know what, container volumes, expect them to drop off of a cliff. Freight volumes, as you come into the start of the third quarter, or the end of the third quarter, the start of the fourth quarter, expect them to drop off a cliff. There were so many people who were like, you guys don't know what the heck you're talking about. Because at that point in time, you weren't seeing it in the data. Yep. But by the time that you hit that middle summer, the now peak season, which was shoved up into the end of July, now you're looking at the data and you're saying, okay, all these volumes are completely down. You've got retailers wondering, how the heck am I navigating when I plan for a peak season and I don't have that peak at all because all of my inventory is already here. I'm sitting on it. What do I do with it? where do you take that transportation spend that you had budgeted for Q4 now? Where does it move?
Yeah, and it's not just any inventory, it's the inventory that you paid more money for
To
than
get
you
here.
ever have to get here. And who wants to be the one to let that go, right?
and
At a
who-
discounted price.
From a consumer standpoint, who wants it now?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's so last year, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Other than Halloween, right? Those are the same costumes every year. You're good, but everything else,
Spider-Man,
who wants
you're good
it?
to go. I mean,
Find
it-
yourself a good thrift store.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
to your
right.
thrift store. Shop
But
your Halloween
But in
costume.
order to fill up the thrift
you know.
store, you got to go out and sell it at a discounted rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you paid so much money for that inventory, and now I got to go. Okay, by the way, I'm going to let all of this go that I paid more, double than what I paid any year before.
Yep.
So here's my thing on volume, is that we go back and we look at volume today, hanging around that, say, 10,700 mark. Let's use that. It's still not bad other than last year.
But also, the last 2 years are such an anomaly.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Can you
We always talk
actually?
about that.
Can you
It's the
compare
worst.
it?
So when do you go back? Do you go back because you can't go past 18
No.
because the data's junk.
Yep.
Right. So we're sitting with all this data that we're trying to compare with historical. Well, historic only goes back to 18, maybe the end of 17.
Maybe.
Not a lot of good information in there. So it is tough, but it's not last year.
No.
But it's still better than it was in 19.
Yeah.
It's better than it was in 8. Rates are still higher than they were in 1918. They are.
Yeah, but
No,
but-
the
rates are high.
it's a fact.
No doubt.
Rates
no
are
doubt.
higher.
However,
Fuel.
Operating.
Yeah, I
is
get
higher.
it. Not saying that. Fuel's crazy
You
high.
had Kingston on your show, right?
Yes, we do.
Which, by the way, we watched him because I was in the press room at F3, so we were on the other side, like this. The whole interview. So if he looked red and nervous, it's because we were all just watching him in silence.
Awesome.
Just staring at Kingston?
Yes, yeah,
Oh
while he
my
was on the
gosh.
show. And he brings it up too, even when you look at the diesel prices, a lot of that sulfur type of
The
not
distillate molecules.
Yes, that was supposed to happen prior to the pandemic, and we're just
Yeah.
now seeing the effects of that different regulation now. So part of me wonders if a lot of this is, if we take out the comps right of the last year, if this is some of the trends that we would have saw if not the pandemic. Now again, the pandemic had a boomerang effect the whole economy. It's wild.
I don't really think fuel has much to do with the pandemic as it does with the energy problems that we're having and not releasing it and over in Russia and the restrictions on fuel and our international trade. I see that compounding it and making it really difficult because I guarantee you, when it gets cold and the distillates are starting to get run at a higher premium, diesel's going to go up.
Yes.
Fuel oil's going to go up.
Yes.
I guarantee you when it gets cold, we're going to see, we think it's high now. Wait just a little bit longer when we start seeing sub-freezing temperatures in the north and they're running that oil, that heating oil, like everybody, and they're paying double what they paid for it last year.
Trust me, I'm in the north.
Oh, you're in the north.
She's in the Great White
I'm in
North, so she
Michigan,
knows.
right?
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like-
so you're paying double what
Yeah.
what you've been paying, and that's also a distillate, just like diesel is.
Yeah.
It's not like gas; it's different.
Yeah. Yep.
Outbound tender rejections. Let's hit that one. What are your thoughts on that? Because that is, I'll just tell you from my side, there's still a lot of freight. It's not last year, but nothing's getting rejected.
No.
Nothing.
It's like, how low can it go?
It's almost as low as it was like during the like when everybody was marching in Washington.
Like, I think Zach Strickland pointed this out the other day on Freightonomics. Like, do they have to build an extended piece to the index in sonar to account for it going, can you get negative tender rejections?
Yeah.
Is that possible? Do they have to build it?
That's crazy.
Don't know.
It is crazy, and I'm telling you, there's still freight there. I mean, obviously, if you're not rejecting it, you're still selling it.
Right.
But it's already starting to see where it's going, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really starting to see where it's happening. Where are we headed, guys? Where are we headed? Honestly, you guys are the experts over there. Where are we headed?
Grace, what do you think?
Of course, everyone wants that.
Well, everybody get paper. Here we go.
Right?
Yeah, write it down. Write it down. You heard it here first.
For me, I think there's so many different. I think the biggest thing in particular I think we're going to see out of 2023 is a lot of movement of where we're purchasing, procuring, etc., back to North America. I think that's a huge one. If I left F3 with anything, it is that one, Mexico is going to become an extremely great partner of the U.S. That was like probably the biggest topic that came up, and I thought that was, for as much as we like to stay out of politics in this industry, it's so hard not to.
Yeah.
But there was so much data and population data on Mexico as a thriving economy for me, especially the freight tech behind that, I'm interested in. Transportation is becoming bigger. They're actually finally building their own infrastructure and highway systems. So I'm excited to see where that goes. That being said, right, we're going to see a lot less coming through different ports, etc. So to make a call on what volume will be this time this year, or this time next year, not the right person to say that. I don't think anyone, there's so many variables out there that there's no way to truly tell.
Right.
What's interesting though is I think the fact that a lot of people are getting second jobs, and there's still a lot of purchasing behavior going on. People are still buying things at a pretty high rate from what you would expect in a recession. So I'm interested in kind of more of what we'll see in the spring, and I think that will kind of push the rest of the year as well.
So tagging on that, we do a segment on FreightWaves now called Mailbag, right? Viewers write in questions, we answer their questions. The end of August, we had a viewer write in and say, what are you most worried about moving into traditional peak season? Or what are you watching as you move in? And my answer was that the behavior of the consumer, whenever they take a look at their bank account, take a look at their credit statement, and have their oh crap moment, that's going to dictate a lot of where the freight market goes into 2023. And I think that even as the Fed keeps hiking interest rates, even as all of your CPG goods are going up, you're seeing inflation literally everywhere you touch. Gas prices are still high, no matter, they're high one day, they're low one day, and it's still high overall through an average period, right? The consumer still has not had their oh crap moment. And that is almost more concerning to me than anything, because they're still taking out new credit lines. They are still borrowing money that they don't have at these high interest rates. And I honestly think the younger generation is a lot to blame for that, because we are not as financially savvy, we're not as financially educated.
We haven't had to pay loans.
We haven't had to.
2 years.
Yes, that's a
People
ton.
don't realize
You haven't had the lean years. You haven't had the recession before. You haven't seen what it's like. The long lines at the pump. You haven't seen what it's like. And I'll tell you though, and I know that the credit. I mean, our interest rates have gone up. They're going up higher than they have been since the '80s, and they're even talking about going up again.
Yep.
And they're not slowing down. What's really dangerous and what's scary to me is we don't really see the full impact of that 6 months afterward.
Nope.
And you don't. So if you hit the stop sign now with a higher interest rate, you don't really see its effect on the economy for 6 more months. And where are we headed? Because I saw just reported so many layoffs just this week alone across the country in the tech industry, and I'm talking big ones. I'm talking 30,000 people, 6,000 people, 3,000 people. That was one of the very biggest indicators of recession was unemployment. Well, we have had such a shortage that we were able to fill that gap, but I think it's coming, right, guys?
And that's so interesting to me, and it's fascinating to look at the economics of a recession, being in an economic recession without that co-located unemployment part. And because it's coming, and it's like normally you've got like the 1-2 punch, and now it's like the you hit in the first round, and where your layoffs are coming in round 5, 6, and 7, right? Like they're hitting delayed, which is almost more concerning for the consumer, because you have this almost false sense of security, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, am I safe? I don't know.
I hate to make fun of maybe the generation underneath us, but I've seen
I'm Gen Z. I don't know what you're talking about, generation. You guys forget about that.
What am I guess? I'm a millennial. Yeah, I'm a millennial.
I think you're a millennial,
I'm just old.
I noticed like on TikTok, there's a lot of, I got laid off, but we're gonna make it through this, and it's, I sometimes wonder myself, well, what's happening when that cell phone bill doesn't get paid now, and none of this is happening, and I don't think anyone in those lower generations is ready for that situation.
No.
It's funny you bring up the consumer spending too. Like even myself, I'm going through what am I using Amazon Prime? Am I using this? Am I using these small things and cutting it, right?
Yeah.
So
I could go on like this massive tirade about like consumer culture and the way that social media plays into it and how that all relates back to freight, but we don't have that much time today.
But doesn't like 9/11, I'm just going to go 9/11, we saw in the banking crisis, we saw it during COVID, that when large companies, find a reason to clean their payroll, that they often do that. I'm just going to say, don't forget that right now, it's a great time right now for a large company to say, you know what? We have all this technology. Do we really need these folks anymore? Yeah. And I think that's a big part. You see it every time during that period. Right now is no different. It allows them the freedom because now they're not the bad guys.
No.
I've got a question for you guys. Okay. So like my generation, the younger millennials, older Gen Zs, we're kind of built into this go to college, get your career, find a job in tech, shove the trades off to the side, shove your trucking, your industry, manufacturing, whatever. Are we now seeing that flip over and getting people to understand that, hey, there is so much value in a trade career or so much value in trucking? Like I want to hear that from you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, it began a long time ago. I think it started about 10, 15 years ago when we saw these huge debts going on with going out and getting an education because we felt we had to, right? You felt like, you weren't ever going to have a career, you weren't ever going to be successful.
You were sold a lie.
And then you were going to propagate these huge debts to pay for school, when in essence you would pay more money going out and getting a great trade, getting a career. And I have a nephew that is in HVAC making a killing,
ton of money,
and he loves it. And he's got a great, and now he's opening up his own business in HVAC.
Well, Dave, we're kind of telling that to the kids now at school. We have trade schools for them during high school to learn a trade. Don't go to college just to go and come back to me 2 years with all that debt on you. You don't have to do that. I think we've we've done a better job as a country explaining this, that hey, you don't have to. Listen, I want my doctor to have a degree, right? I really do. My attorney, hey, that would be cool. Be nice, if you're giving me real information. But everything doesn't require that.
But where's the cost? And that's where you got to go down and say, well, that's going to cost me here, and it's going to take 10 years. So, I think it's great. And how do y'all feel about it now? Here it is. Y'all got, the people, the young people. Where are we at?
I think that there is a ton of young people coming out and seeing value outside of a traditional four-year education. So I'm going to give you a real life example. My sister is 17 years old. She's a senior in high school. She's at this point in her life where she's creatively talented. She's got a really great mind. She plays like 9 different instruments, right? But she's business savvy. She's had a job since she was 15, working in Texas. You can do that. And she is sitting here saying, you know what? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to try and pursue something through a technical program? Do I want to, go and get my feet under me in the working world, and then look at going back to school later when I have the financial means to do so? And those conversations she's having in her friend group and larger in her peer groups at her high school. And it's a complete 180 from when I graduated high school 8 years ago. And they were like, "You're not going to college? Sucks for you. Your life's going to be over. It's terrible."
Wow.
It's life changing.
I'm glad I paid off my loans. That's how I feel right now. That's for sure.
So many haven't, but
so many have not.
So many have not, and even with they talk about the loan forgiveness. We won't talk about the ills of what that is, but that doesn't solve the huge problems of people that are in huge debt.
The societal crisis.
It's just a small Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
Right.
And I think we're going to have that until we come up with a great solution. I know we're running out of time.
Hey, before we go, we've got professionals here. We're going to read the thing, and we're going to do it the right way. Go ahead. Who's first, Grace?
Let's do it together.
Yes, let's do it together.
There we go.
My name is Grace Sharkey.
My name is Kaylee Nix.
And we are with Freight Waves. And you're listening to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Bam.
There you go. All right.
Appreciate y'all.
I like it.